at my current situation, be it marketing or my business or whatever it might be. And I think that's personal work that needs to be done. So if we find ourselves crossing up into that space of like, it felt icky, my marketing tactics, and I went there anyway because I felt like, well, maybe I'm just hiding in the corner and not being proactive enough, and it kept feeling icky. Hey, pull yourself back down. Start doing what feels more authentic to you. There's no shame in you. Maybe you made a mistake for you. That's totally okay. I think it's when we start binding with this idea of who I am, and I start getting defensive, like, hey, the other day you wrote this in your social media about this certain type of marketing tactic, and I take offense to that. Like, then we're starting to kind of attach ourselves with these belief systems that are, do we really want to type our sense of self-worth and, like my website platform or like,
The way how
if I,
with my selfies,
like WordPress is the best. I'm diehard WordPress, and it's like, no, let's not get so better on X about stuff like this. So
Yeah.
you use Weebly, use Squarespace. I'm a WordPress user. Hi, who cares?
The main thing is
You
that
get my
you're out
drift.
there. Yeah, absolutely. So for all of you who
Yeah.
are watching, this is not what we're saying. We are not saying that you charging your worth is a bad thing. We're not saying that. We are not
Right.
saying that marketing and letting people know, hey, this is my service, please buy it from me. This is what I can provide, I can help you. We're not saying those things. What we are actually saying is, correct me if I'm wrong, John, is that there is a certain way to make sure you keep yourself in check, that you keep yourself in that area of ethics of marketing where you are genuine. If you really want to be genuine about your marketing, you think of other people and their success, not your bottom line.
Right. Absolutely. And it's okay that when things feel off, you can readjust. Like, it's okay to you don't have to stay the course out of obligation.
Right.
So if I can bring that back to that question you asked, what's one of my most important lessons in coaching is that, your coach doesn't know you as well as you know you. And your coach, if they're a good coach, is going to help keep you on focus with what you tell them you want and where you want to head.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they're helping you, they're mentoring you, but you're the one that's driving the ship. And
Yeah.
if you're off course and it feels bad, there's no shame in
Yeah.
redirecting where you're going.
Yeah.
My experience with email marketing it hasn't hit me in a spot yet I feel comfortable with. And that's no slam against email marketing. It's just that for me right now, that's not where I feel like my business efforts need to go.
Yeah.
And in the past, I would be like, well, maybe I'm just doing it wrong. Or maybe I'm not getting an ROI because I need to be doing this and that. And next thing I know, I'm buying more products. I'm attending more webinars. I'm like, wait, time out.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just okay to slow down and understand that not everything's for me right in the moment, and not feel obligated like I have to like follow through with every single idea or thought.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned something really, really important, that when you hire a coach, they work for you. When you hire a videographer, they work for you. It's not that just because they have a social media following, they've got this identity online and they're famous or whatever in your eyes, doesn't mean that you have to nod at everything that they said. If it's not in line with who you are as a person first, and then as a business person,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't honor that, you might have to just move on. That's just the
Absolutely.
bottom line.
Yeah. Well, I totally agree. And if we're going to be empowered all the time.
Yeah.
Don't give away your power and then say that you're empowered because you can, raise your rates to the level that your coach told you to raise them.
Yeah.
That's just following the leader. Like, it's okay. Again, if that feels good for you and that rate level felt good, like I had raised my rates significantly based on the advice of a coach. And I was like, hey, I don't know if that's going to work. He's like, just give it a try. And if it doesn't, you can pull them back. And I trusted him and it worked and it felt right. And I kept with it. And I've been at that level since. But again, like you said, and I think you have a really good point. You're the leader, and trust yourself. Be empowered all the way around and through, not just with what you feel like you should be empowered with, because now we're just, we're bypassing the whole meaning of it to begin with.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not just about professional development, but it's also personal development. If you feel like you have to be led by someone and not trust your own instinct and have this insecurity, do that process first before you hire anybody else. Or like you said earlier, if the coach has a background in clinical psychology or being a therapist, and they can pick that out and then they interweave into their coaching about personal development, empowerment and insight and all those things, that is a very, very valuable individual. In my own marketing coach, I do a lot of those introspective processes, because unfortunately the video will capture who you are on film. So when I'm creating promotional videos for you, you have to show up. Not what you do, all the initials that you have, those things are great, but you as a person, you know as well as I do, John, that our clients they develop loyalty because of who we are, not so much of all of these, degrees and, certifications that we have.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, it is about that, and that's a huge part of it. And I think that it takes a lot of insight on the coach to know that, like you said, this is not just about business; it's also interweaving with personal development as well. And you can't get around that. I think that's kind of where we make a mistake, is if we're doing a private practice, we want to skip all those things to try to get to this success, or at least we might have that mindset. And then we can't figure out, looking back, like, okay, well, I hired the coach. I did everything they told me to do. I can't still get a full practice. I'm still struggling. I'm doing all these things and I can't get the results. Well, a good coach who knows and it's been there is going to help you kind of raise the flag when you're getting off course.
Absolutely. That cheerleader, that support. And not so focused on, hey, you will get the 6-figure. Hey, you'll get this at this amount of time. Just do all of these things. But what will your coach do with you and for you when you go slumming down that place where I did everything and nothing's happening for me? So with that coach comes out and, like you said, raise the flag for you and give you some sort of a support and encouragement. That is a beautiful coach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think like you mentioned earlier, when that trust comes into play, you feel that connection there. And that's an intangible. We can't necessarily put our finger on it, but we know it's there. We give it a word. It's called trust. Okay, we feel that. It's very easy to see numbers and figures and money and ROI indicators and all that. And then, that's one part of it. But if you're not paying attention to and don't have the language to put your finger on the intangibles, your coach can step up and help you process that in a space that makes sense for you and keeps you on course. If your coach can't do that, then honestly, you probably need to find a different coach. You probably do at this stage of your career.
Yeah.
And maybe at the later stages of your career, when you've got, like you said, you've got a lot of internal stuff kind of worked through, then you can go back to that individual and work on the fine tuning of the numbers. But at this point, me being in private practice for 3 years, being new, I need someone, and I think a lot of people who are watching will agree with this. I need someone who's going to give me both those aspects, both the business side, of course, and the interpersonal side that you're mentioning as well, which comes with trust. It has to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're a young therapist and you're young in your private practice, there's a sense of desperation. You really want to hire someone who's been there, done that. But at the same time, when it does not feel right for you, trust that instinct, trust that within you. And John and I are big advocates for coaches, consultants. We see tons of value in hiring and even pay the big bucks. What we are saying is just be an educated consumer. Really vet those people. And some of the things that I would recommend is talk to people who've gone through their program, who've gone through their coaching program or whatever, and just educate yourself and see if they're in line. And remember, interview the crap out of them. Okay, ask them flat out, what can you do for me? When can you turn around the time frame? What will my results be? How are you supportive? Those things are very, very valid. Now, John, let me ask you, you have a lot of experience in and doing a lot of processes internally about the coaches and your thing and all of those. What would you, one thing that you would recommend or encourage those who are seeking coaches, what would you say to them?
I would say learn about concepts of scarcity and abundance, and identify when you're in a place of scarcity, because typically it comes up as fear or insecurity,
right,
or not enoughness. And don't make a decision based out of that spot. Like you said, Ernesto, do your homework, take your time. You're not in a rush. And maybe you need to clarify that. Do I feel like I'm in a rush? Why? Do I need to pay the bills? Is there some kind of financial situation coming up? That might be an indicator that you don't need to go to private practice right now. Maybe you need to stay in your full-time job.
Great point.
But whatever it is, come from a place of abundance and know that you are enough regardless, and that your coaching is going to be to help you get to the next step. It's not going to make or break you. It is not going to be the transformative, like, magic pill. It's not going to be the thing that's going to get you the shiny new things and all these objects of like success and fortune. The coaching is going to help you as an individual. Make sure that when you're picking out your coaches and that you're doing this process of discerning on which ones are right for you, really ground yourself and identify that you're coming from that place of security and groundedness. And then maybe that looks like abundance, as opposed to feeling scared and like, oh, I need to hurry up and get this underway. I need to get my blog post going so I can get website traffic, so I can get clients coming. That's just not a good place to make a big decision from, because these coaches, they're really good. They know what they're doing, for the most part, I think, and they cost a lot of money. You don't want to be spending money when you're coming from a place of being unsure.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah. I spoke with another clinician a few weeks ago, and one of the things that he mentioned was, sometimes when I hire coaches, they just give me permission to do something that I already know what to do. And it's so right. Sometimes you know what you know what to do, but we need that support. We need that, permission to do it.
Yeah, right. Well, I was talking with Marissa Gowdy yesterday on my interview show, and Marissa.
Yep.
And she said something. We were talking about storytelling, and she said, "You know what the world doesn't need is more blog posts. The world doesn't need another generic step-by-step how-to. The world needs more people to show up. And if that's by your writing, then by all means, show up in your writing.
Wow.
But don't set off on the intention of just doing the step of, well, I need to write a blog post, and I feel guilty because I haven't written in 2 or 3 months. You should give yourself permission, like you're talking about, to show up in the way that you can already show up, because that's what the world needs.
Absolutely.
The world doesn't need more, you trying to figure out what someone else needs so we can kind of manipulate ourselves to try to be, come across as competent and passable. Like, no, we need more being there. And like you said earlier, showing up.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so important. John, I can talk to you all day. I really can.
Oh, I know, man. We could do this for another hour.
So, all of you who are watching, again, I don't mean to really to take down any of my colleagues who are doing coaching or consulting. In fact, I want to give you business. I really do. I also want to talk about some of those things that we don't want to talk about, the ugly side of our business, about, when it doesn't feel right, when you get an email, when you get some sort of a marketing tactic, when it doesn't feel right for you and you go, ooh, I want to make sure that you, those of you who are trying to hire coaches and trying to figure things out for yourself, Don't lose your sanity. Don't lose your intelligence. Always ask the right questions. And in the day and age of social media, anybody can be popular. Anybody. You know, anybody can have a nice selfie on Facebook and then they go, wow, you're awesome. No, don't fall for that crap. So, John, your True Calling project is something that I've been watching a lot, and I've been learning a lot, because I think we forget as business owners that we do have to turn around and do a lot of introspection. How can someone get a hold of you, or where can we come across your True Calling project, your website?
Yeah. Well, the best place to get a hold of that content is just going to be on Facebook. So you can just search True Calling Project. It should come up as a page, and then you can like it, and then you'll get the interviews. I'll just post those to the feed every Monday. To contact me personally, you can contact me at john@johnharrisoncounseling.com, and then you can learn more about my practice at johnharrisoncounseling.com. And you can also watch those True Calling interviews on that website as well.
Okay, awesome. So everyone who's watching, please reach out to John. He is really awesome at these interviews, and really cool to talk to. You know, you can actually see the genuineness in his identity on Facebook, and he's the real deal. So, you know, reach out to him. John, thank you so much.
Hey, likewise, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Again, this is Ernesto from Filmic.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you got something out of this, and be a little bit more educated in who you choose as far as your coach, your consultant, and even your videographer. All right, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.